There is a specific kind of exhaustion that changes how you see the world. It's not just being tired. It's a heavy, vibrating fog that settles behind your eyes after 18 hours behind the wheel. The headlights of oncoming traffic start to look like tracer fire. The dashed white lines on the asphalt blur into a solid, hypnotic ribbon. You start to see things in the tree line, things that disappear the moment you blink. My name is Ben. I've been a long-haul trucker for 12 years, and I know every highway, turnpike, and back road from Maine to California. Or at least, I thought I did. 3 weeks ago, I was sitting in a diner off Route 9, staring into a cup of coffee that tasted like battery acid. I was ruined. My rig needed a $6,000 transmission overhaul I couldn't afford. The bank was threatening to repossess my house, and my daughter's medical bills were piling up on the kitchen counter like a paper avalanche. I was desperate. The kind of desperate that makes a man pray to whatever is listening, even if it's something dark. That's when he walked in. He didn't look like a trucker. He wore a crisp, tailored charcoal suit that looked entirely out of place against the greasy vinyl booths of a 24-hour truck stop. He sat down across from me without asking, slid a manila envelope across the table, and tapped it with a manicured finger. $10,000, he said. His voice was entirely flat, completely devoid of an accent or emotion. Cash. Half now, half upon delivery. I stared at the envelope, then at him. Delivery of what? To where? A sealed shipping container. It's already hitched to a Peterbilt in the back lot. You just need to drive it through Blackwood Ridge to the drop-off point on the other side. A 4-hour trip. My chest tightened. Blackwood Ridge was a massive, federally protected expanse of dense pine forest. There were no state highways through it. Just old logging roads that had been abandoned in the 60s. There's no road through the ridge, I said. Not one that can handle a semi. The man smiled, but his eyes stayed dead. There is a road, Ben. It just doesn't show up on standard GPS. Do we have a deal? I looked at the envelope. I thought about the foreclosure notice. I thought about my daughter. Yeah, I whispered. We have a deal. He slid a laminated sheet of paper out of his jacket pocket and placed it on top of the envelope. One last thing. The route has quirks. If you want to collect the second half of your payment, and if you want to see the sunrise, you must follow these rules to the letter. Do not question them. Do not deviate. The rules of the ridge. I didn't read the paper until I was sitting in the cab of the Peterbilt, the engine idling with a deep, guttural roar that rattled my teeth. The envelope contained exactly $5,000 in crisp, sequential $100 bills. I flicked on the cab's map light and held up the laminated sheet. It was typed in a harsh, blocky font. Protocol for the Blackwood Ridge route. The odometer. Once you pass the rusted iron archway at the entrance of Blackwood Ridge, your GPS will fail. Trust your odometer. The route is exactly 142 miles. If your odometer reads more than 142 miles and you have not reached the exit, stop driving immediately, turn off your headlights, and do not make a sound until you hear ring. The tree line. Keep your high beams on at all times. If your headlights reflect blue eyes in the trees, dim your beams to running lights immediately. Blue eyes mean they are hunting by sight. If the eyes are red, ignore them. Red eyes are just watching. The radio. At exactly 3:14 a.m., your CB radio will squawk to life. A voice will call out your childhood nickname. Do not answer. It is not your mother, and it is not your childhood friend. Turn the radio off, but do not touch the volume knob. Leave it exactly where it is. The blue station. At some point during the drive, you will see a gas station on the right side of the road illuminating the fog with bright blue neon lights. Your fuel gauge will drop to empty. This is an illusion. Do not pull over. Do not look at the attendant standing by the pumps. He is not waiting for customers, and he does not sell gasoline. The hitchhiker. If you see a woman standing on the shoulder of the road waving for help, you may pass her. But if you see a man standing with his back turned to the road, staring into the woods, lock your doors and accelerate. Do not look in your rearview mirror until you have crossed a bridge. I let out a shaky breath. laughing nervously into the empty cab. It felt like an elaborate prank, some kind of hazing ritual for an illegal smuggling operation. I threw the paper onto the passenger seat, engaged the clutch, and shifted the heavy rig into gear. 10 minutes later, the paved state highway gave way to gravel. Ahead of me, cutting through the dense, oppressive wall of pine trees, was a massive, rusted iron archway. The headlights caught the words welded into the metal, Blackwood Ridge. As the front tires crossed under the arch, the digital display on my dashboard flickered. The GPS screen went entirely white before a single line of text appeared across the center. Route not found. I glanced down at my trip odometer. I clicked the button, resetting it to 0 miles. I stepped on the gas, and the truck plunged into the black mouth of the forest. The fog hit almost immediately. It wasn't the normal, wispy mist you find in the valley. It was thick, heavy, and yellowed, rolling across the hood of the truck like smoke. It swallowed the light from my high beams, reducing my visibility to barely 20 feet in front of the bumper. The trees on either side of the narrow dirt road grew so close together they looked like a solid wall of black wood. Their branches scraped against the sides of the trailer, a rhythmic, metallic screech that sounded like fingernails dragging across glass. Scratch, scratch, scratch. Just a job, I muttered to myself, gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles turned white. Just 4 hours, and you're debt-free. I glanced down at the odometer. 14.2 miles. The drive was agonizingly slow. The road was full of deep potholes and washouts, forcing me to keep the heavy rig in third gear. The engine whined, a lonely, mechanical roar in a wilderness that felt entirely dead. There were no deer, no birds, no insects hitting the windshield. Just the fog, the trees, and the relentless scraping against the trailer. Then, my headlights caught something up ahead. My heart skipped a beat. A pair of twin pinpricks of light reflected back at me from the darkness between two massive pine trees. They were about 8 feet off the ground. I leaned forward, squinting through the fogged windshield. The lights weren't yellow like a deer's eyes or green like a cat's. They were a brilliant, piercing, electric blue. Rule 2. If your headlights reflect blue eyes in the trees, dim your beams to running lights immediately. Blue eyes mean they are hunting by sight. Panic, cold and sharp, flooded my chest. My mind screamed that it was a trick, a ridiculous superstition. But my hand moved on instinct. I slammed my thumb down on the light switch, killing the high beams. The world instantly plunged into near-total darkness. The dim amber running lights barely illuminated the hood of the truck. The road ahead disappeared into a wall of black. I took my foot off the accelerator, letting the truck coast forward on its own momentum. The engine purred quietly. I stared into the woods on the right, past the dirty passenger window. In the dim amber glow, I saw it. It wasn't an animal. It was too tall, too thin. A silhouette standing between the trees, its limbs unnaturally long, like a spider standing on its hind legs. It was completely hairless, its skin a pale, mottled gray that seemed to absorb the light. And where its face should have been, two massive, lidless blue eyes stared directly into the cab of my truck. It didn't move. It just stood there, watching the truck roll past. And then, it leaned forward, and its jaw dropped open. Not like a human jaw. It unhinged, stretching down past its neck, revealing a cavernous, pitch-black throat. It didn't make a sound. It was just a silent, yawning mouth, waiting for me to stop. I didn't turn my high beams back on for 3 miles. Even after the blue eyes faded into the fog behind me, the phantom image of that unhinged, yawning jaw remained burned into my retinas. My hands were shaking so violently I could barely keep the Peterbilt centered on the rutted dirt road. I kept my eyes locked onto the dashboard. Odometer, 42.8 miles. The scraping against the trailer hadn't stopped. If anything, it had grown more rhythmic, shifting from the random brushing of pine needles to a deliberate, metallic tapping. Tap, 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 like someone walking alongside the truck at 30 miles an hour, rapping their knuckles against the aluminum hull. I reached for the dashboard, turning up the climate control just to drown out the noise with the blast of the vents. The air coming out of the defroster was freezing, smelling faintly of damp earth and old copper. I glanced at the digital clock on the dash. 3:11 a.m. My stomach dropped. Rule 3. I reached over to the passenger seat, grabbing the laminated sheet of paper with one hand while keeping the other glued to the wheel. 3. The radio. At exactly 3:14 a.m., your CB radio will squawk to life. A voice will call out your childhood nickname. Do not answer. Turn the radio off, but do not touch the volume knob. Leave it exactly where it is. 3:12 a.m. I reached out and touched the power dial on the heavy Uniden CB radio mounted above the windshield. The unit was technically already off. I hadn't switched it on since I entered the ridge. The digital channel display was completely dark. 3:13 a.m. The silence inside the cab grew thick, suffocating. The tapping on the trailer stopped entirely. The only sound left was the low, steady rumble of the diesel engine. The clock clicked over. 3:14 a.m. Crackle. The CB radio burst to life with a blast of static so loud it made me jump in my seat. The little green backlights on the display flashed erratically, scrolling through channels at blinding speed before violently locking onto channel 4. The static smoothed out, replaced by a low, hollow hum. It sounded like the audio feedback of a massive, empty room. Then came the voice. It didn't sound like a radio transmission. It didn't have that mechanical, tinny edge. It sounded like it was coming from inside the cab, right next to my right ear. Benny boy. My heart stopped. My throat went completely dry. No one had called me Benny boy since I was 7 years old. The only person who ever used that name was my grandfather. And he had been buried in a plot in Ohio 15 years ago. Benny boy, why won't you look at me? The voice whispered. It sounded exactly like him. The same slight wheeze, the same gentle, raspy cadence. It's cold out here in the woods, son. The trees, they don't let you sleep. Pull over, Benny. Just let me in the cab for a minute. Let your granddad sit by the heater. Tears pricked the corners of my eyes. The grief and the sheer terror hit me at the same time, a physical blow to the chest. Every human instinct I had begged me to grab the microphone, to scream into it, to ask if it was really him. But I looked down at the laminated paper. Do not answer. With a trembling hand, I reached up and slammed the power button on the CB radio. The green light died. Why are you hiding, Benny? The voice didn't stop. The radio was completely dead, the screen dark, but the voice was still coming out of the unpowered speakers. It was louder now, losing its gentle tone, shifting into a harsh, metallic rasp. You always were a coward. Leaving your family. Leaving your girl with those bills. You think $10,000 buys you out of this? You're ours, Benny. You crossed the arch. You belong to the ridge. I gripped the power dial and twisted it completely to the left, trying to force it past the click. I didn't touch the volume knob. The rule explicitly said not to, but I pressed my palm against the speaker mesh, trying to physically choke the sound out. The voice dissolved into a hideous, overlapping chorus of whispers, dozens of different voices speaking at once, laughing, weeping, before finally snapping off into a sharp, agonizing burst of static. Then, total silence returned. The blue station. I drove in a daze for the next hour. My mind felt numb, completely hollowed out by the psychological assault. I didn't care about the money anymore. I didn't care about the Peterbilt. I just wanted to see the sun. Odometer, 81.3 miles. The road began to slope downward, winding into a deep, fog-choked ravine. The yellow mist grew so dense that even with my running lights, I could barely see 5 feet over the hood. I was crawling at 10 miles an hour, riding the brakes. And then, the fog broke. Up ahead, cutting through the yellow soup like a beacon, was a brilliant, blinding splash of electric blue light. I rounded a sharp bend, and there it sat. A pristine, retro-styled 1950s gas station. A massive neon sign buzzed overhead, spelling out a single word in glowing blue cursive, "Station." The light was gorgeous. It was warm, casting deep blue shadows across the gravel lot. After miles of oppressive, pitch-black woods, it looked like an oasis. Suddenly, a loud, high-pitched dinging sounded from my dashboard. I glanced down. My fuel gauge, which had been sitting comfortably at 3/4 full, was plummeting. The needle dropped like a stone, passing a quarter, then an eighth, before slamming against the pin at empty. The low fuel warning light flashed a cruel, bright red. The engine began to sputter, coughing violently as if it were starving for diesel. Rule 4. You will see a gas station on the right. Your fuel gauge will drop to empty. This is an illusion. Do not pull over. Do not look at the attendant. It's an illusion. I screamed into the empty cab, my voice cracking with desperation. It's a lie. It's a damn lie. I forced my foot down on the accelerator. The engine groaned, losing power, the truck slowing down to a pathetic crawl right in front of the station's single pump island. Standing beneath the brilliant blue neon light, right next to the rusted chrome pump, was a man. He wore a pristine, spotless white attendant's uniform and a matching paper cap. His back was turned to me as the truck rolled past. "Don't look," my brain screamed. "Keep your eyes on the road." But as the cab drew parallel to the pump, the sheer, hypnotic pull of the blue light dragged my eyes to the right. The attendant slowly turned around. He didn't have a face. Where his features should have been, there was only a smooth, featureless surface of pale gray flesh, except for the center of his head. Embedded deeply into his skull, shining with a terrifying, internal luminescence, were two massive, lidless blue eyes. He didn't move toward the truck. Instead, he lifted his right hand. He was holding a heavy, black fueling nozzle, but the hose didn't lead back to the pump. The thick, rubber hose was pushed directly into an open, ragged wound in his own side, drinking from his own black, leaking fluids. He raised his other hand, pointing a single, elongated finger directly at my driver's side window. The moment the truck cleared the edge of the parking lot, the engine roared back to life with a ferocious surge of power. The fuel needle violently snapped back up to 3/4 full. I slammed my foot on the gas, the tires throwing gravel as the Peterbilt launched back into the safety of the dark forest. I didn't look back. I didn't care if the man with the blue eyes was watching me run. I just kept my foot buried in the floorboard, forcing the heavy Peterbilt to its absolute limits down a road that was never meant to hold it. The dashboard clock read 4:43 a.m. The yellow fog had returned, thicker now, pressing against the windshield like a physical weight. The trees seemed to be leaning inward, their skeletal branches overlapping above the dirt road, turning the highway into a long, claustrophobic tunnel of black wood and dead needles. I glanced down at the trip odometer. 138.4 miles. Less than 4 miles to go. My heart hammered against my ribs like a trapped bird. Just 4 miles. I could feel the phantom weight of the other $5,000 in the envelope on the passenger seat. I could see the image of my daughter's smiling face. I was going to make it. I was actually going to survive the ridge. Then, the high beams caught a shape on the left shoulder. My foot instinctively hovered over the brake. It was a woman. She was wearing a torn, faded summer dress, her hair matted with blood and mud. She was stumbling toward the road, her arms outstretched, waving frantically at the truck. Her face was a mask of pure, unadulterated terror. She looked so human, so real. Rule 5. If you see a woman standing on the shoulder of the road waving for help, you may pass her. But if you see a man standing with his back turned to the road, lock your doors and accelerate. I closed my eyes for a fraction of a second, stealing my heart, and blew past her. As the cab rocked from the displacement of air, I heard her scream, a piercing, desperate, agonizingly human sound that cut right through the roar of the diesel engine. "I'm sorry," I whispered to the empty air. "I'm so sorry." But before the guilt could fully settle into my stomach, the headlights illuminated the right shoulder. My breath caught in my throat. It was a man. He was incredibly tall, wearing a grease-stained mechanic's jumpsuit. He was standing perfectly still, his back completely turned to the road, his head tilted back at an impossible angle as he stared directly up into the dark canopy of the pine trees. Lock your doors and accelerate. Do not look in your rearview mirror until you have crossed a bridge. I slammed my left hand against the door lock panel. The heavy mechanical clunk echoed in the cab. At the exact same moment, I mashed the accelerator down. The Peterbilt lunged forward, the turbocharger whining as it sucked in the freezing air. As the front bumper drew parallel with the man, he didn't turn around. He didn't chase the truck. Instead, his arms, unnaturally long, just like the creature from the first 30 miles, snapped backward. His joints violently popped and twisted, reaching behind his own spine to grab at the air. Crack! A sound like a wet branch snapping echoed over the engine. A massive, pale gray hand slammed against the passenger window of the cab, smearing thick, foul-smelling black fluid across the glass. Long, skeletal fingers raked against the metal door, trying to find a seam, a handle, an entry point. Screech. I kept my eyes pinned forward, screaming at the top of my lungs, forcing the truck faster. 30 miles an hour. 40. On a dirt road covered in potholes. The entire rig violently shook, the steering wheel tearing at my palms. Up ahead, the yellow fog parted just enough to reveal a structure. Concrete barriers. Rusted steel girders. A bridge. The front tires hit the metal expansion joint with a heavy thump-thump. The moment the trailer cleared the concrete edge of the bridge, the scraping and clawing on the side of the truck instantly stopped. I let out a ragged, sobbing breath, my chest heaving. I looked up at the rearview mirror. The road behind me was completely empty, just the yellow fog settling over the dark river. I looked down at the odometer. 141.9 miles. 142.0 miles. I waited for the forest to break. I waited to see the rusted iron archway marking the exit of Blackwood Ridge. I waited to see the glowing lights of a state highway, a state trooper, a standard green exit sign. Anything. But the road didn't end. The dirt path just kept going, winding deeper into the endless, suffocating wall of pine trees. 142.1 miles. 142.2 miles. Panic, a cold, paralyzing wave of it, flooded my brain. I reached over, grabbing the laminated sheet of paper with a hand that didn't feel like my own. My eyes raced to the very first rule. 1. The odometer. Once you pass the rusted iron archway, your GPS will fail. Trust your odometer. The route is exactly 142 miles. If your odometer reads more than 142 miles and you have not reached the exit, stop driving immediately, turn off your headlights, and do not make a sound until you hear ring. 142.5 miles. There was no exit. There was only the forest. I slammed my foot on the brake. The heavy semi skidded across the damp gravel, fishtailing slightly before grinding to a halt in the dead center of the dark road. I reached out and flicked the headlight switch to the off position. The world instantly died. Without the high beams, the darkness was absolute. It wasn't just the absence of light. It felt like a physical substance, a heavy, velvet blanket pressing against the glass of the windows, trying to squeeze its way into the cab. I reached up and twisted the key, killing the ignition. The massive diesel engine spluttered and died. The sudden silence was deafening. No rumble. No ticking of the radiator. Nothing. Do not make a sound. I sat perfectly still in the driver's seat, holding my breath until my lungs burned. My heart was beating so hard against my ribs I was terrified whatever was outside could hear it through the metal doors. Tap. A single drop of liquid hit the roof of the cab. My heart flared with hope. Rain? Tap. Tap. It wasn't rain. The sound was too heavy. Too thick. It sounded like thick, viscous syrup dropping onto the aluminum roof from the branches above. Suddenly, the truck violently rocked. Something massive had landed on top of the trailer. The metal roof of the container groaned under an immense, crushing weight. I could hear it moving. Heavy, deliberate thuds shifting from the back of the trailer toward the front, right toward the cab. Thud, thud, thud. It stopped directly above my head. The thin aluminum ceiling of the cab began to bow downward, flexing under the weight of something standing on top of it. I kept my eyes locked straight ahead in the pitch black. I didn't breathe. I didn't move a muscle. And then, a sound began to echo through the metal frame of the truck. A low, vibrating frequency that bypassed my ears and rattled directly inside my skull. It was a voice, a composite of a dozen different voices. My grandfather, the faceless attendant, the screaming woman on the shoulder. "You did so well, Ben," the chorus whispered through the ceiling. "You followed all the rules. You were so careful. But you forgot to ask one question before you took the money." The metal ceiling bowed lower, the rivets groaning as if they were about to snap. "Who do you think built the road?" A sharp, electric blue light began to bleed through the seals of the doors and the edges of the windshield, illuminating the interior of the cab in a sickening, neon glow. I closed my eyes, burying my face in my hands, waiting for the rain. But out in the depths of Blackwood Ridge, it never rains.